I wonder, having done this now, it's absolutely fascinating what we've just talked about. Where would you like to take this research now?
I think maybe when I go to uni, I'd like to study it actually in a lab, like actually see it, because like the picture of the actual rotary motor, I'd love to be able to just see that, because I think it's so amazing and it looks so complicated. I'd love to be able to work with it and maybe just find out more about it.
I was going to say, did you ever agree with an idea of kind of the intelligent design, but with an intent for this evolution to evolve, if you like, for this to kind of,
I think that's theistic evolution, what we're talking about, where evolution was guided by God. But this theory has problems on both sides, and I think a lot of it is biblically it doesn't agree with some of the things in the Bible, which is that's what I believe personally, and that's why I don't believe that. But I know it has problems on the other side of things. It does. Part of why I didn't include it in this is because it doesn't come into the debate. Theistic evolutionists don't tend to get involved in the whole intelligent design evolution debate, which is so big in actually America at the moment. Yes.
If I just use the example of like a rainbow, just it's simple. Do you not think that thousands of years ago people couldn't explain how a rainbow happened, so they put it on God? But say modern age science over time has come up with a theory that we now know to be true of how the rainbow is formed. So I think the same thing could be applied to this problem, and just because we don't know how it works yet, we shouldn't necessarily put it straight on God, and surely it makes more sense based upon the development of science over thousands of years to put our faith in the fact that science will one day solve the riddle.
Well, just because it works doesn't mean God didn't cause it to work. Like, just because light always behaves, like just because light always hits the prism and makes the amazing rainbow doesn't mean God didn't make it do that. It doesn't mean God didn't create the characteristics that make light do that.
So, do you think that evolution can be by the theory, it's just that God's made it? Or do you disagree with evolution?
I believe that I believe in variation within a kind. So like all cats are related. Like there was a cat and then it had like smaller cats and some bigger cats and some long fur and some short fur. But I don't believe in like reptiles became birds or something like that. I don't agree with that.
When you had the taken proteins, like you said, a lot of them weren't anywhere else. Now, my interest in chemistry, people come across lots of different new chemicals, quite a lot. I just randomly throw them together. Do you not think that something like that could have happened just by probability or chance? This amazing rotary motor could have.
You're talking about so many variables. You're talking proteins made of 4 different things. It's got a primary structure, a secondary structure, like a tertiary structure, and possibly even a quaternary structure. And if even one of those, if one of the amino acids, when there's like hundreds and thousands in a chain, if one is out of place, you haven't got the same thing anymore. It's totally different. There are so many variables, and if it's folded up in a certain way, it will act in a certain way. If it's folded up in a different way, it will be something totally different. So you're talking about so many variables that I just think it's so many things that could be so different. How can you say that it just came by chance?
We're talking about very small scale, and often in science we use the small to explain the big. So if we were to blow this up into a horse or a rhinoceros or a hippopotamus, how would we explain the fossil record in a creationist or intelligent design
way? The fossil record, a lot of intelligent design or creationists put it actually as, especially creationists who believe in the Bible, actually put it down as Noah's Ark. And when there was so much water coming up from the earth, it would bury things very quickly, so that they would be like basically fossilized, and that meant that all these things were preserved exactly. It was the fossil record is in the way we see it, because it was like the things couldn't get away, like the I don't know what they're called, ammonites. And they couldn't, because then they can't move very quickly, that's why they're near the bottom. But like other people would be nearer the top because they could try and get away, but then they couldn't and they got caught. That's why we think the best record is going that way. Yeah.
If you, like, I think you mentioned earlier, you put faith in the fact that God's like made rainbow theory work. So you put faith, like, you have faith in science's ability to prove that theory. Why then can't you have faith in God's creation of the theory of fossilization and the fact that equally as well science has suggested that fossils are millions of years old, whereas the Bible suggests they're less than 10,000? How can you, how can you put your, how can you justify putting your faith in the rainbow theory, which God created, and not in an equally viable theory of fossilization that God also created?
Are you like referring to like carbon dating, how old the fossils are? Yeah. Carbon dating in itself has, it's based on 3 assumptions. I haven't looked into this for quite a while, but I know one of them is like the amount of carbon there was at the start, and then another one is the rate of decay. And it assumes that there was like full carbon there at the start, and then it decayed like normally, like at like a normal rate. But that's like a humongous assumption, and in a lot of other cases that's proven not to be true. And I remember reading a report about there was a volcano which erupted, and it did fossilise quite a few things. And when they actually carbon dated those, they were found to be like millions and millions of years old, even though the eruptions happened like 3 or 4 days before. So even carbon dating has its own issues.
I think, I'm sorry, that's going to have to be the last question. I'm sure we could go on all evening actually asking you questions. So you've opened up a really fascinating debate for us. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for all your questions.